It's finally here, the new Nissan Qashqai, and it has some mightily big boots to fill, because the original Qashqai from 2007 was the car that kicked off the whole crossover craze, because it was pretty much the first car to do so. But imitation is the best form of flattery, and this car now has loads of rivals. Think Mazda CX-30, Volkswagen Tiguan, and also the Hyundai Tucson. So is this new model worthy of competing with those big names and reclaim its spot at the top of the crossover pile? Well, today we're gonna find out. But before I get into the review, you know what to do by now. Hit the like button and subscribe, because we've got plenty more awesome videos just like this. See the Qashqai, you almost think that they haven't really done much to change its design, but it's when you get up close and personal that you can see all the little tweaks that make this look like quite a distinctly different car. The front end, for instance, has that really sharp V for the LED headlights, and there's also a bigger grille than before to give it more of a road presence. And down the side, you've got this really cool line, which sounds really boring, but it runs from the very front to the very rear, and it's kind of the only crease that's down here, other than this one right here. It just gives the car a slightly more simple look, but it's also razor sharp. And for the first time on a Nissan Qashqai, you can get diamond cut wheels. These are the 20s and are available on the top spec cars, but the entry level cars, you get 17s, and they're steel. The rear end is still very Qashqai, but it looks dead cool. It's just a bit more simple, a bit sharper and cleaner. And you also have this sloping rear roofline, which is dual tone to make it look more sporty. Now, the new Qashqai is a little longer and a little wider than before, and it means we've got a bigger boot in the back. Now, this has got 504 litres, which is 74 more than the old car. It's a huge difference. It's difficult to compare it to rivals though, because the Qashqai has so many of them. So something like a Mazda CX-30 has a smaller boot, whereas a Tiguan has a much bigger boot, and they're all kind of in similar price ranges. But either way, the Qashqai has a lot of space back here. And we've also got a bit more storage underneath the boot floor as well, which is great for storing away the load cover, because I often forget those things when I'm out on a shoot, so now I just have to put it underneath the floor. And something Nissan is very proud of is you can use the split boot floor to separate your luggage. So let's say if I had, I don't know, some shopping in the back and I didn't want it flying all over the place, I can just put this divider down, and there you go. The engine lineup at launch on the Qashqai is pretty simple. It's just one petrol engine with two different power outputs, which on the one hand is a bit of a shame, because this car's rivals have so many different engine options: petrols, diesels, hybrids. But on the other hand, it means that I've only got two power outputs to remember. And that motor is a 1.3 litre petrol engine developing either 138 brake horsepower or 156. And you can get it with either a CVT, which is an automatic gearbox with one variable ratio, or a more conventional manual box, so you can shift gears yourself. Now, it's available in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive form, and they all come with mild hybrid systems. These are 12-volt systems, and essentially what it does is it regenerates energy under braking, and then uses that to give you a little bit of a boost when you're getting away from, let's say, a set of traffic lights, or also to eke out a bit more fuel. But if frugality is your thing, then you'll want the upcoming e-Power, which is a hybrid, but not in the way that you would know. On the e-Power, it's a petrol engine that charges up a battery, which then feeds power to an electric motor, so you're kind of driving an electric car, but through a petrol engine. The interior is a huge improvement over the old car, and it feels much more premium and, dare I say, even a little bit more luxurious. And that's because they've gone for some really smart design choices here. I really love this kind of wood effect around the center console and on the dashboard that's been inspired by a type of Japanese wood. And this car has the leather trim on it as well. So we've got leather around the center console, on the dashboard, and these lovely quilted leather seats, which is just so funny to see in a Nissan Qashqai. The steering wheel is also a really nice improvement, and it's dead simple, really thin stalks with nice buttons on them that are really well damped, and the leather itself around it feels lovely. Couple of paddles on the back as well. This is the Cvt Gearbox, so we can go up and down the faux gears with these paddles on the back of the wheel. There are also physical buttons on the dashboard because Nissan customers prefer them to touch controls, and I'm along with them. And that works nicely with an infotainment screen, which again has physical shortcut buttons. Of course, there are many different trim levels, and there are some notable differences between them. That being said, they're all really well equipped and come with a really decent tech list. All but the entry-level cars get a 12.3 digital instrument cluster, and it looks really sharp and slick. And that's accompanied by a 10.8-inch head-up display, which Nissan says is one of the biggest in the business. There are also 3 different infotainment screens, a 7, 8 and 9-inch panel, which seems a little bit much in all fairness, but the 9-inch panel is a huge improvement over the old car, and it's the one that we see right here. But it can still feel a little bit clunky here and there. It also comes with the rear-facing camera, and some models actually get ambient lighting, which is very futuristic and luxurious. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto also come bundled in for free no matter which car you go for, but it's only the higher level cars that offer wireless connectivity. We've also got a wireless charger, so you can charge your phone on the go without having to plug it in. Although if you do want to plug it in, there are a couple of USB ports under the armrest. One's a USB-C, the other is a regular USB port, and there are little kind of ducts here so you can feed the cables through, and also 2 very decent side cup holders as well. All in all though, a huge improvement up front. Fun fact, the doors on the Qashqai open at a near 90-degree angle, so if you're a family person, it's easier to get children's stuff in and out of the back. And speaking of the back, it's a big improvement over the last car. You're going to see a bit of a running theme with that through the rest of this video. Leg and headroom is a big improvement, and that's largely because the car is a little bit longer. But what's quite impressive is I'm just under 6 foot. I've still got quite a bit of headroom to go, and we've got the optional panoramic roof installed. Now that usually cuts into headroom by a fair amount, but still, I've got plenty of space still to go. Bit of connectivity back here, 1 USB-C and a regular USB. If there's someone sat in the middle, it's pretty comfortable. And if there isn't, then you've got an armrest that you can pull down with 2 incredibly shallow cup holders. So I think if you're going on a journey, you'll probably want to hold it like that. Other than that though, yes, big improvement back here. Well, this has been a bit of a long time coming, hasn't it? We first had a look at the Qashqai earlier this year, and that was a pre-production car, but it still felt pretty good in all the right places. But now we're in the proper launch car. Now, when I first got in the Qashqai, it made a fantastic first impression because it just feels so much nicer in here than the previous version does. And the same can be said for the way it drives. My goodness, this is a really sweet handling car. Yes, it's not going to be the greatest driver's car there is out there, but it just feels a bit tighter. It feels a bit sharper to respond. Now, all that is irrelevant in a crossover, but if you're driving this every day, it all adds up. You're going to want a car that's intuitive to drive. Now, remarkably, we actually have the Cvt Gearbox in this car, and I'm not the biggest fan of CVTs, but this one's pretty good. It kind of just feels like a regular automatic. You can go through the faux gears if you want to, but just leaving it in auto, it does a superb job. You can change the characteristics of the car as well through the driver mode. So at the moment I've got it in Eco, which means that we're basically sipping away at fuel, so it's not quite as responsive as it could be. You've then got Standard, which is basically standard mode, and then Sport. And this actually changes the characteristics quite a bit actually, because the throttle actually becomes a little bit heavier, and the steering also is a wee bit more weighty too. It's not going to feel like a sports car, but if that's what you're after, if you're needing a bit more punch, Sport mode is the one to go into. And speaking of Sport, you can actually get a 6 Newton-meter boost through the mild hybrid system. And is it noticeable? I don't know, in all fairness. I can't really, it doesn't feel like I'm getting an electric kick like you sometimes experience in other mild hybrids, but it's there. And the important thing is not only does it eke out a little bit more fuel, but it actually lowers carbon emissions by around 4 kilograms, which is this much. Ride comfort is really good. This thing does feel very, very comfortable. But what is actually a little bit hard to comment on is what kind of noise isolation is like, because it's absolutely hammering it with rain today, and that's just covering up all the wind noise. And I mean, it doesn't sound like there's a storm inside the car, so I guess that's a plus point. And while we're on the motorway, we can talk about the Qashqai's driving tech, because it's seriously impressive. Even if you go for the entry-level car, of which Nissan expects only 1% of sales to come from, you get a huge list of semi-autonomous driving tech, including intelligent cruise control, which basically is able to change your speed depending on the car in front of you. That's often a really expensive option on more premium rivals, and you get it thrown in for free on the new Nissan Qashqai. And that's combined really nicely with this 10-inch head-up display, which gives you all the information that you need. It's really crisp. It's got really nice colour to it as well. And while it's not quite like the AR tech that we've seen in some other cars recently, check out our Audi Q4 e-tron review in the top right-hand corner for that, but it comes up with all the navigational instructions ahead of me, speed, and also the ProPilot system as well, and will kind of read the car in front and tell me the distance to it. So that's really handy. Overall though, the new Qashqai is a huge improvement, particularly when it comes to tech. It's not the most engaging car out there by any means, but as something that has to be the whole package, it's certainly up